Well, thank you very much, Mike, not just for that warm introduction. Sunderland are actually playing this evening, but I am here with all of you, but also for expertly leading the SMMT as its CEO over many years. We have worked together for some time now, and I know just how much the businesses you advise, represent, and champion truly value this organisation's work. The SMMT is a powerful, effective voice for this sector, promoting our country's great motoring industry, both at home and abroad. And you also do a brilliant job at bringing the industry together. Just look at this room tonight. Hundreds of attendees here, from Auto Trader to ABP, from Ford to Freightline, from Teneo to Toyota. The diversity of the companies here tonight speaks to the sheer breadth of the sector, with representatives from design centres and gigafactories, tyre specialists and supercar manufacturers. So it's a pleasure to join you all. You don't need me to tell you how important your sector is to the economy. The numbers speak for themselves. Last year, you contributed around £20 billion of GVA. You employ over 150,000 people directly, and another 800,000 jobs exist within the industry's supply chain, to say nothing of the services sector who rely on this industry too. You know, as well as those headline figures, yours is a sector where I often see people who started off on the factory floor reaching the very top, and where there is a relentless focus and commitment on the skills of young people, on providing good lives as well as good jobs. So it's always great to be at this dinner, but in light of recent announcements, I think it is particularly important for me to be here tonight. And so I want to use the chance I have in front of you all here to address some of those concerns that Mike talked about head on. Because I don't think it's an exaggeration to say I think this industry is facing a greater set of challenges today than at any point in the last 50 years. The news last week from Ford, and which I see received from Stellantis today, only confirms what we already knew about the scale of those challenges, but it is no less painful. So I'm going to be frank with you. I don't believe the policies that we have inherited, and I mean specifically in relation to zero-emission vehicles, are operating today in a way anyone intended them to. In fact, I am profoundly concerned by how that is working at the moment. And that's why, just last week, the Transport Secretary and I held a meeting with many of you and the SMMT to discuss that. And I want you all to be in no doubt. We get it. We get the seriousness of the situation, and we get the urgency. I know that in an internationally mobile market, the UK has to fight, and fight hard, to keep your investments and commitment. So let me be clear. We are absolutely committed to our manifesto commitment of a 2030 phase-out for new cars powered solely by internal combustion engines. We are not changing our level of ambition for the transition, and there will be no repeat of the uncertainty generated by the previous administration. But at the same time, the Transport Secretary and I have heard you loud and clear on the need for support to make this transition a success. And that's why we will be consulting with you on changes to the ZEV mandate and inviting your views on options for a better way forward. We know that you need certainty, and that's why we will fast-track that consultation, giving you clarity on the direction of travel and ensuring you have the answers you need in the coming weeks before you make decisions in January. And I know that's the message many of you needed to hear tonight. But I also want to make unequivocally clear that this is not about undermining or doubting the transition itself. I want to do everything possible to encourage the take-up of EVs, but I also want to do everything possible to make sure EVs are built here in Britain. The future of EV cars in the UK is not and should not be a negative story. It should be a positive one because the products are great. And yes, we do need to make this change. Roughly 30% of the UK's greenhouse gas emissions still come from cars, vans and lorries. But we need this transition to be done in partnership with government, industry and consumers. But please be in no doubt that it really matters to me and to the government that vehicles are made here. And we know too that it's incumbent upon us to put our money where our mouth is on our green ambitions for this sector. It's why in the budget, the Chancellor announced over £2 billion for zero-emission vehicle manufacturing. This funding will support the latest research and development into these technologies, accelerating their commercial scale-up and unlocking capital investment in vehicles, in batteries, and the wider supply chain. This is all about ensuring continuity in government support whilst transitioning to a new funding offer for investors that is much simpler, clearer, and faster. We know another concern for some people, specifically around EV take-up, are charging points. The fear of not being able to find a suitable charging location out on the road or near home. And here again, through the budget, we're making sure the funding is there to support motorists and support the industry. Over £200 million is going to an accelerated charging point rollout, building on the 70,000 public charging points already available. So we're committed to making the UK an EV-friendly nation. And by 2035, we want our automotive sector to be a leading producer of zero-emission vehicles, and we want to work shoulder to shoulder with you to do it. We're already seeing industry taking some huge steps forward in this endeavour, with Jaguar Land Rover moving to 100% fully electric vehicle lineup, while investing billions into the UK economy over the next 5 years. At the same time, we've seen Toyota investing substantially to ensure that its UK manufacturing operations are 100% carbon neutral by 2030. We're seeing similar levels of ambition in the luxury and high-performance segments of the market too. British brands like Bentley, Aston Martin, Lotus, McLaren and Rolls-Royce pushing the boundaries of what is possible with EV technology. And these are great stories for the UK, of which we should celebrate. But we also want to put in place a long-term plan with you to ensure that UK motor manufacturing can grow and thrive for that long term. And that plan is our industrial strategy, Invest 2035. I know some of the companies in this room will have already responded to the Green Paper consultation we launched earlier this year. If you have, I want to say thank you, because your feedback will help shape the industry's future. Invest 2035 channels support to 8 key growth-driving sectors, including advanced manufacturing. It will engage on complex issues like skills, regulation, energy prices, grid connections, planning and infrastructure, all through the lens of investment promotion. We know that the UK automotive sector is already an attractive proposition to international investors. Yours is a high innovation, high productivity sector, and I want it to stay that way. And that is also why, building on the Automotive Transformation Fund and the Advanced Propulsion R&D programs, we also want to launch a brand new investment spurring initiative, one that secures the UK's place at the forefront of cutting-edge technology and engineering, and one that will work alongside our National Wealth Fund to attract strategic investment and drive growth. And we'll provide more details of this in the spring next year when the full industrial strategy is published. In all of this work, we want our automotive sector to retain its competitive advantage. We want to increase its resilience at a time when global supply chains are in flux and there are fears about the future of global trade. And that's why the industrial strategy will be directly followed by the trade strategy, where, of course, again, it's this sector which is a leader. We already export over 80% of the vehicles we produce to more than 140 countries worldwide. I want us to build on that momentum with our twin-track approach to trade, an approach that will see us negotiating for simpler, smoother trade with the EU, which is not just the UK's closest trading partner, but also our largest trading partner by quite some margin. But at the same time, we're continuing to negotiate export-boosting free trade agreements with economies like the GCC, India, South Korea, Switzerland, and Turkey. And we're rolling back tariffs and ensuring that more British-designed, British-made cars and vans can competitively be sold in markets around the world. Following, in particular, the US elections, there is no doubt that 2025 looks like it will be a year where trade policy will be in the news quite a bit. And for this industry, and the UK as a whole, we need to be clear that the US, the EU, and China are all important trading partners. And any decisions affecting one of these markets has to be considered not in isolation, but alongside what it would mean for the others. We need to be clear-eyed about that and be confident about standing up for our own national interests, just as other countries will be about theirs. So yes, these are challenging times, but please be in no doubt, you have a supportive government determined that we will meet these challenges together. And whilst I am your Secretary of State, you will always have a friend and an ally around the cabinet table. I know that I probably overuse my personal story of how growing up in Sunderland means you will always have a real awareness of what an asset like the Nissan factory means for a community. But I tell that story because it's true. It's a testimony to the benefits of what can happen when industry and government do get it right. And there are a whole list of cities and communities who also have felt that as a result of firms in this room, from the Midlands to Merseyside, places that have been transformed as a result of investment from Toyota, from Jaguar, from Ford, from Vauxhall, and BMW. And I want more stories like that. And I know that with the right policy, as part of an effective, long-term industrial strategy, the future of vehicle production in Britain can be a bright one. And I promise you all that we'll do everything we can to absolutely make that happen. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. Thank you.